Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Calvin, We the Species. I always love to be chronological. We are actually at the midpoint in July, July 15th. And as the old sage says, there are interviews and there are interviews. And me being an old timer, I love to interview contemporaries, and they're hard to find. And Steve Schlam and I are contemporaries, right down to we're 2 weeks apart. We talked before we went. We just been BSing for like almost an hour here, going through the discovery process, and we just met, and boom, 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 and one thing or another, birthdays come up, and hey, we're 2 weeks apart, so you can't get any more contemporary than that, Steve Schlam. And the other amazing thing about Steve and I, and I just love this, Steve, being a contemporary of mine, has published, and that's why we're here. Published his first book, The Harvesting of Haystacks Kane. And you can, by the way, you can sit and talk about this cover for about an hour, and maybe we will, because I love the cover. Very, it fills your head up. But I'm so thrilled about this, Steve, and thrilled about Nanda putting us together, because the commonality, we're the same age. We had the same experiences in the late 60s that are tough, and we came out of that. And you just published a novel, your first novel, and I published my second, like a year ago. And so we are the ingredients, the fabric, the particulates, the energy is here. And that's why I'm so excited about this. So, in the vernacular, my Johnny Carson monologue is done, and I'm introducing you. Why don't you say a few words about your background, and then we're going to jump into the harvesting of Haystacks Kane. Take it away, Steve.
Oh, yes. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Steve Schlam, and I'm the author of The Harvesting of Haystacks Kane, which is published by Eighth House Publishing, an independent publisher, and is literary fiction, and has been long listed for 2 international literary awards since its publication back in 2024. I myself am from New York, Brooklyn to be precise. And I'm now ensconced in San Diego. I've made that journey that so many people make across the country. Um, and I've had a kind of peripatetic existence to some extent. I've lived in several places in the United States and in Mexico for a few years, in San Miguel de Allende, which is an expatriate haven in central highlands of Mexico. And I've been an attorney, a very unhappy attorney, as so many writers seem to have been. I can think of two off the top of my head: Balzac and Kafka, and I think Matisse was an attorney as well. And somehow art becomes the escape hatch, and in my case, that's exactly what happened. It was it was my ticket away from a life that I didn't really want to have. And so I've written this book. It's taken a while for it to be published, but it is published. And I've told you some of the results. And so here I am with Calvin and to discuss it. And let's go ahead.
Okay. Um, so you kind of just touched on it, how you came about and by the way, you also you got a master's degree in creative writing. I was looking at that, and you actually you did some acting, which is
I didn't mention that, but yes, I'm an actor as well as a writer. I haven't had a huge career. I'm not Brad Pitt, although I like to think I'm as good looking as Brad Pitt. But that's to be decided, not by me.
sure.
But yeah, I've acted mostly stage work, and I've done it in every place that I called home: New York, Miami, Santa Fe, New Mexico, San Miguel, and now here in San Diego. I just got finished doing a play, which was called The Jury Experience. It's an interactive drama, a legal drama in which the audience takes the part of the jury and we did several performances in May and June, and it went quite well actually. It's a play that's being done in 80 or 100 cities all over the world.
Mm.
So yes, I have that notch on my belt to boot, I suppose you'd say. Um, and I don't know how much it influences the writing, but I'm sure on some level it seeps in.
Yes. That's one more element. I'm not an actor, although I've done some attempts at acting, but I was in a Meryl Streep movie, and I was the biggest. I'm 6'5", by the way, so you can't
Okay.
tell because I'm sitting down,
I'm
but I'm
only
6'5".
6'1". Yeah.
Yeah, and I was in a Meryl Streep movie, One True Thing, came out in '98. She's dying in the movie, and it's a long story, and actually I'm gonna explain to people how I was in a Meryl Streep movie. She was nominated for the Academy Award, and I was in the Christmas scene singing Silent Night, and I'm the biggest thing in the scene. That's because I snuck onto the set. Long
Nah.
story. Nevertheless, no SAG card, nothing. I didn't get paid. Anyway, moving on, Steve.
Right.
Why is now? I mean, you wrote this late. This came out late, and same with me. And why is now the right time for this particular story to emerge?
I don't know if whether now is any better a time than any other time. Essentially, now is when it did emerge,
Okay.
and if since this is the story of one man's struggle to be free and attain full and complete selfhood in a way that he never had attained it before, I think that's quite relevant to a lot of the struggle we see going on all around us, be it from immigrants or on racial terms. I mean, it's not a political novel in any way, shape, or form, unless you think that there's political material kind of embedded or inherent in the structure of it to begin with.
Okay. Uh, Off topic, I have to say, I have to say that I started reading, the Kindle version and PDF, and your writing style is unique and extremely descriptive. Like I feel I'm there, and I love style, and I love your use of the words, your descriptions, and you actually feel, I felt I was in the hospital room there, with all this stuff going on. So anyway, I'm just saying that I call it as I see it, like Sergeant Joe Friday. Remember that show? Um, so anyway, the title. The harvesting of Haystacks Kane, I always like to hold it up, is very intriguing. Can you explain what's being harvested from haystacks?
Yeah, it's a good question. Haystacks, or whose real name is Herschel Kane.
Oh,
He's a nice Jewish boy from Brooklyn. Um, Haystacks Kane is his nom de plume or his nom de guerre, a better way to say it. But Haystacks is a true innocent. He really cares not for money, for fame or fortune in any way. And he sees good in everybody and everywhere. Um, and it is that, and he's gentle, extremely gentle. Even though he is in his professional life takes place in a violent world, although it's a scripted violent world, so it's a little less violent than one would think if one didn't know better. Um, so his innocence, his goodness, he is a butterfly collector, which has much to do with his father, who was also a butterfly collector and abandoned the family when he was a boy. So it's his way of staying connected to his father. But if I had to liken him to one character and one other character in literature, it would be to Ferdinand the Bull in the book The Story of Ferdinand by Munro Leaf. which was published back in the 30s, and it's a kid's book. And Ferdinand wants to sit in the field and smell the flowers while everybody around him wants him to enter the bull ring and behave in the macho aggressive way that bulls are supposed to behave. And Haystacks is in a similar vein. He really, as I said, does not care for fame, fortune, doesn't want to, he'd like to be a champion, but he likes everybody. And he's been exploited in the sense that he's been trained to lose. At one point, he says, and I think I'm quoting my book accurately, mostly I lose, mostly I like it. Sometimes, almost. Anyway, I think so. And it's something that he lives with. One of the reasons he is seduced into the world of wrestling by his nefarious manager Maury Holman, is that he'll get a chance to travel. He'll get a chance to see places he wouldn't otherwise. And he'll get a chance, therefore, to be in environments where the butterfly population and species are different than they are where he's from. So none of it is about worldly success. It's all about joy and pleasure and being good and loving people.
Wow.
And that, I should say, is what is harvested.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Heavy stuff. Heavy stuff. I like the cover with that little butterfly floating over the sun. You know, like I said in my monologue, we could talk about this cover for a long time. But so moving along, interestingly, the story largely takes place in a hospital bed as Kane fights for his life. What drew you to this very intimate, introspective setting?
The novel came to me in a dream. I know that's a cliche that you hear from writers, but it's the truth. It came to me as a dream. It didn't come fully formed, but much of it came in that first dream that woke me up from a deep sleep on a summer night in Brooklyn. And as far as the hospital setting, I'm not sure exactly when that suggested itself to me, but it did soon thereafter, as the novel, as the molten clay of the novel began to cool and take shape, become a form. It suggested itself to me, and really, what better place is there for someone who is in what amounts to a life and death struggle for his very existence, his very humanity, to have that struggle take place, but in a hospital when your life literally hangs in the balance. And from a structural standpoint, that setting permitted me to incorporate the many voices that came to me in that dream, that the dream that was the genesis of the novel, to incorporate them as monologues by visitors from Haystacks past or present, who are either literally in the room with him or kind of enter his disordered world, his disordered internal world, as participants in his search for it, the meaning of it, the key to it all, the key that will unlock the door to freedom and transcendence. I have to leave that judgment for the reader, but either way, it allowed me to create the point counterpoint or a call and response motif that the novel that I wanted to create and that the novel possesses.
Okay, okay. We talked about this briefly. You earned an MFA. You studied under Joseph Heller, Catch 22. I remembered the movie with Alan Arkin. He kind
Yeah.
of stands out. I loved Alan Arkin. What did you learn from that experience that shaped your writing?
So Joe was a very, very plain spoken, direct, humble person, very much unfazed and unadorned by any celebrity or fame. He was like the guy you'd meet on the subway, the guy sitting next to you on the subway. Um, and he was very approachable. I used to go to his house, not his house, but his apartment in the building next door to the Dakota where John Lennon was shot.
Wow.
Um, and we'd sit and kind of have a post-class salon, a bunch of us. And he just was a really, really nice person and very, very encouraging and very supportive. So he once told me that I wrote better than he did. And and I was so shocked and so nonplussed that I think I'm not sure I even said thank you. And if I did, I stammered it out, you know.
Wow.
And then he continued by telling me that I what I needed to do, given that he felt that I wrote so well, that what I needed to do was to choose subjects that for my work that were commensurate with my high toned, elevated writing style. And it's something I never forgot.
Yeah,
I mean, it stays with me still.
sure.
But I mean, I think that in Herschel Kane's struggle to find the true meaning of it, as I just mentioned to you, I think I have found such a subject.
Okay. You know, that's so interesting. Interesting because I know when I write, I need to focus on a piece of energy somewhere floating around the universe to keep me moving on. And I'm thinking that Joseph Heller, you know, told you that you write better than him. Now, if I would have had something like that, what a great piece of energy that, you know, because I
Yeah.
ran into the wall lots of times and I needed some severe kicks in the butt to get myself back in the groove. But my goodness, you know, Philip Roth would have told me because he lived 12 blocks away, hey, Calvin, you write as good as me or whatever. But anyway, it's just a great thing to have been told, Steve.
I was, of course, flattered. I mean,
Yeah,
who wouldn't
truly.
be?
Just,
I mean,
just uh,
this is a writer whose the title of whose book has literally entered the language.
yeah,
Everybody knows what Catch 22 is.
correct. Just unbelievable. I mean, he's cultural. And to have that said, that's just a great piece of energy. You know, it's like you're getting infused with caffeine 24 hours a day. That's energy. That's great stuff. Um, the book took decades to complete. Um, what kept you returning to Haystacks Kane's story over the years? You kept returning to it.
So I I mean, there were lots of things that intervened, lots of things that interrupted the process, but I knew that I had something good, something worth sharing with the world. And I also knew that this book was my own ticket to freedom from the false identities, I'd say, we all learn to wear like costumes in a play, you know. That it was my ticket to the validation and the liberation of my own authentic self. And so, in that sense, I knew I had to continue. I had to give birth, and so I did.
Okay. You know, Norman Mailer uh, once said, you said something that struck a chord with me. Norman Mailer once said that for him, writing a book is equivalent to a woman giving birth. We're giving birth. And
It was like that for me.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I mean, I had periods where I barely could put two sentences together, where I was dry. And then I had periods where I once wrote a portion of the book sitting at my table, my desk, I should say, my Army Navy store government issue desk in the small foyer of my apartment in Brooklyn, in the heat without air conditioning. And I wrote, I don't know, 1,500 words in like a half an hour.
Wow.
And it was as though the words were literally flowing out of my arm, and I was a spectator watching the whole thing happen. So in that sense, I was very fecund, is the word that comes
Yeah.
to mind. Uh,
Wow.
and then, as I said, other times I was as dry as a bone.
Okay. Interesting. Hey, I listen, I identify with everything you're saying. I mean, I went through sometimes I'd go through like months. I just couldn't write. And when it flows, my goodness, I'm writing this, I'm writing my third book, and the stuff just flows right out of me. And, I run into tell my wife and give her a couple of pages to read. That this stuff just flows. So, I guess it's like Aaron Judge. He's hitting home runs. He hit his 35th home run the
Yeah,
other night.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you're in that
I
zone.
mean, I mean, to be quite honest, when it was good, it was better than anything. It was better than food.
Oh
It was
yeah,
better than sex. It was
yeah,
better than love. It was better than anything. It
yep.
was a total and complete experience of one's self and one's connection. It was as though I dissolved into the universe. I mean, that sounds very,
Oh, I understand completely.
but that's the feeling.
Completely understand because when those words are flowing and you read what you just wrote and you love it, and then you give it to your harshest critic out there in the kitchen, and I like it. She's a prolific reader, so it's a great feeling. It's a wonderful feeling. So I completely identify with you. Um, I do sometimes go off topic, and I'm going to do that now. I didn't prep you for this, but I have a couple of fun questions just
Okay,
to throw in.
let's wing it and see what happens.
Yep, yep. I actually I'm going to confess to you. If you take my confession, my confession is I borrowed these from Barbara Walters, who I love and
Oh,
admired.
I'm sorry, Calvin. I
I
did.
I borrowed these questions actually from Barbara Walters.
Oh, okay.
So, here goes. Excluding family or friends, somebody living or dead you'd like to spend a day with.
Mm. Excluding family or friends.
Yes.
William Faulkner, who is my literary hero
Okay.
and mentor. I've been to his house in
Wow.
Oxford, Mississippi,
Wow.
um, and they have a Faulkner, I don't know what they call festival or something of that every year at UMiss, and I think he's the greatest writer who ever lived. I know I should put on a flak jacket when I say that, but I really do,
Wow.
and so I'd love to spend time with him.
Yeah, because in reading, it's funny in reading this. You talk about Faulkner, the cell sheet. Uh, um, uh, you know, uh, you talk about him and his stream of consciousness.
Right.
And he's from Mississippi. Did you ever? So you were at his house. I mean, that's like wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah. And it was, I mean, it wasn't, I mean, the house wasn't anything particularly special, but I want to say reeked, but it's nicer than reeked. I mean, his presence, his energy, what was there. I could feel it, in
I got
his
you.
chair, in his typewriter, et cetera, et cetera.
I got
And
you.
it was almost for me, it was a quasi-religious experience.
I completely.
I don't want to exaggerate, but it really did feel
Oh
that way.
no, I believe you. I listen. I had a chance to stand at Hemingway's house in Key West,
I've
and
been there too. Yeah,
yeah, and I believe listen. I've done some crazy things when I have something that I can draw energy from. I mean, I once went to in that trip. Going to Hemingway's house. Before that, I found the dock where they filmed that movie Key Largo with Humphrey
sure.
Bogart and
Yeah,
Lauren
and
Bacall.
because, yeah,
Yeah, and I found that dock. I took my shoes and socks off, and I put my foot on the dock just to absorb.
sure. Oh, that's wonderful. That's
Yeah,
lovely.
yeah, and I did that because there's a word Meshuggah, and I guess That's me. So, a segue to my last off-topic question. Do you have some favorite movies?
Favorite movies.
Yeah.
First one that comes to mind is McCabe and Mrs. Miller, which is a Robert
Warren
Altman.
Beatty? Warren Beatty?
Yeah, Warren Beatty and Julie Christie, who was an absolutely lovely pearl of a woman. But in any event,
Okay.
um, and he plays a kind of a no account who comes into this mining town, and she's a madam, I think, and who runs a saloon. And it says more. It takes place, I believe, in the late 1800s, and it says more. It's beautifully acted, beautifully filmed. It's Altman, after all. Um, and it says more about American society, particularly American capitalism, in my opinion, than just about any other movie I've ever seen.
Okay.
And I loved it.
Okay. Okay, I like that. I like that. That's I ask this question all the time. It's a first, McCabe and Mrs. Miller, which you probably now moved me to kind of watch that and check it out. I like to get leads like that. All right, so back to work. Uh, Kane dreams of escaping to Greece to the Valley of the Butterflies. What does what does the destination actually represent? And in the cover, you see picture of ancient Greece.
Right. Right. And that's purposeful, of course. The So Greece, particularly Petaludus, which is the name of the Valley of the Butterflies on the island of Rhodes, um, is for Haystacks, for Herschel, um, Eden. It is a place where he believes it is the place where he believes he can break free of his history, of the bonds, the shackles that of his history, and and live in, it's kind of an awkward sentence, but I hope it makes sense. Um, and live in as his true self at last, soul free at last. Um, it is therefore, if you look at it from one angle, it's the kind of the place where he emerges from the cocoon of his past life, and becomes the butterfly that he senses he is and wishes to be. And and so he to live, and he loves butterflies. He loves their delicacy. He loves the sense of freedom they convey, and he wants very much to live in the valley, just as Ferdinand the bull wants to live in the field with the flowers. He wants to live in the field, in the valley, listening to the sound of butterflies.
Mm.
And of course, if you think about it, there is no sound of butterflies, and yet the the that idea represents kind of ineffable wonder and beauty of the world.
Hmm.
And that's what he's after when
Wow.
all is said and done.
So he's a deep character, you know?
You wouldn't think so from the
Yeah,
way he presents himself, and
sure.
from his persona. But of course, not Calvin, but Haystacks Kane is simply a persona. It's a costume he wears. It's a false identity that he finally realizes he must free himself from in order to be himself, to be his true, authentic self.
Okay. Yeah, truly fascinating. I mean, we could sit here for hours dissecting the character. You know, 607 pounds and wrestling and that world and the things that he dreams of. I mean, this is a deep, multi-layered character. Fascinating, I mean, really fascinating.
Thank you.
Okay. Uh, I like to ask this because I'm in this wonderful authors group, Bold Authors Network, and we meet on Mondays. I told you about that, and there's a bunch of us, mostly independent, but not all authors. Uh, what advice? What advice would you give to other writers who feel that they're starting out too late in life?
Um, Really simple advice. Just do it. I don't think I can add anything better than that.
That's perfect. The guy made a lot of money on that. Just do it. Phil
Yeah.
Knight from Nike.
Well, that's one of the world's 12 great ideas.
Yeah, just do it. Yeah, just do it. And hey, I subscribed to that. I did it. I'm
Right.
doing it again. So you just do it. Um, so how does publishing a book at 78 when this came out feel different than it might have, let's say, if you were 40 or 50?
Well, I feel vindicated. I mean, there's some, I'm proud of myself, of course, that I lasted. I ran a marathon race and I finished the race. Um, of course, there's some sadness in the realization that, there's less of a runway for the publication of future books at this point in my life. But still, the fact that that you can hold up the cover of that book, that people can read it, um, thank you, feels very, very much like a victory, not a farewell address or some type of valedictory. You know,
Okay. Um, so Kane, quote, rummages through the trunk of his memories, seeking truth. Um, how important would you say is memory in understanding who we are? That's a big word, memory.
yes, it is a very complex question. That's right. Um, you know, Faulkner said, let me see if I can quote it directly. He said, "The past is never dead. It's not even past." And by that he meant that there's no you cannot really segregate the past and the present. Everything about you in every moment of your life is an agglomeration of everything that's happened to you in the quote past and is going on in front of your eyes and in front of the rest of your senses in the present. And so memories are they're like they're like the backpack that sits around sits on our back on our shoulders and carries and it is the repository of our experience, and that experience is what shapes our consciousness and shapes our emotions. And so it in essence is a significant, perhaps the most significant part of our own essence. It is what shapes us. It's what makes us who we are. That agglomeration, that accumulation of experiences and feelings and attitudes um, creates us over and over again, moment by moment by moment in our lives.
Okay. Okay. Um, this book seems to ask what forces shape and sometimes destroy us. What's your take, Steve, on that notion? Shape and sometimes destroy us.
Yeah, and so I just in essence, I'll continue what I was just saying. I mean, I think that people in general, my character uh, in particular, um, are prisoners of their past, or at least can be prisoners of their past, and that it often will take, and that past, if it has not been a pleasant, productive past, if it contains a lot of painful experience, can inhibit, can cripple us, and if that past has been a happy, productive past then it will create in us a sense of possibility, a sense of power, of individual power. And so either way, we are in a sense prisoners of our past. And so again, it can launch us into the stratosphere or drive us into the ground.
It reminds me of one of my favorite quotes from the philosopher George Santayana. Those who don't remember the past are condemned to
Room
relive
to
it.
repeat. Yeah, yeah,
I
sure.
love that. Oh,
Me
I love
too.
that.
Me
I'd
too.
want to wear it on my hat, actually, and I don't remember too many quotes, but that. Moving on, in the description that I read, um, there's mentioning streaming consciousness, which comes from Faulkner also. What techniques did you use to get inside Kane's immobilized but very active mind?
Yeah, to say the least. Um, well, I mean, I didn't. It's not something I used. It. A lot of this book, I mean, seemed to present itself, and so to. I mean, I know I had permission, in a sense, to use stream of consciousness techniques, which not everybody adores, I would say, um, because I had Faulkner and Joyce and others as models, and of course they are the best practitioners of those techniques that I think one will ever read. Um, and so since I mean since so much of the book, since the journey in this book is in the character's mind and heart and soul, um, and he is immobile, he is lying in a hospital bed, um, and everything, all the action that happens is past action, except for whatever the visitors to the room produce in terms of action. Since it's an internal journey, and since he is searching for meaning, searching for reasons to exist, really, and if so, and if so, searching for reasons how to exist, where to exist, um, uh, then the use of stream of consciousness, as again it presented itself, it seemed quite natural to me, and to say as well that since he is comatose some of the time, semi-comatose some of the time, it's also natural that his thought process would not necessarily be coherent and cogent, that
Hmm.
it would be scattered. And so stream of consciousness is a way to represent that internal state.
Okay. Okay. Um, it's funny. Listening to it's not funny. I'm thinking to myself, this would be a great film for a filmmaker to make because it's taking place in a bed, you know. Of course, you got flashbacks, that's what it's about, but it certainly lends itself on the budget side of filming a movie, you know.
Right.
This is great because it's so deep. But anyway, um, so I like this question because being a writer, it fascinates me. So how do you maintain momentum? Uh, in a story where the protagonist, Haystacks, is essentially immobile, is physically motionless.
Yeah, that's also a good question, and it's tricky. But of course, the journey here, as I've indicated, is an internal journey. It's not as though we're going to watch him, except at the very, very end of the novel, literally act in a physical sense. Um, but so the journey's internal, but of course, there's plenty of incident that surrounds that journey, that flows from that journey, um, and that produces a feeling or a sense of activity taking place. There's action in the novel. Action occurs. It's just not occurring in the present. The action that occurs in the present is, as I said, internal. But but that action in and of itself, that internal action, his search for meaning, his search for the meaning of it, and his search for a way out of his predicament itself is and ultimately a linear journey, and so produces a sense of momentum. Um, and so, or at least I hope so. Uh,
Okay. Okay. Okay, winding down. Are there any? I always like to ask anything coming up.
I don't have anything coming up at the moment.
Okay,
I have another novel that I've wanted to write for a while, and I'm kind of playing around with the beginning of it. And
okay,
it would be um, about well, the central characters will be Mao Zedong and Michael Jackson, and it'll be about fame and power and the consequences of that.
yeah. By the way, fascinating that. I mean, I don't think a day goes by when I don't project myself. Like I was watching tennis and U.S. Open, and Yannick Sinner, winning the Italian Open, and he's flying back to his home country of Italy, and I think the entire country is thrilled that he's the first Italian. And I was just wondering, how do you even process and cope and with that enormous fame and adulation? So if you're planning,
I mean, I think it distorts the oneself. One's inner gyroscope is sent off kilter, perhaps fatally, perhaps forever.
yeah, it's just sometimes yeah, I would love to experience that, but you lose so much. We all hear stories of celebrities just losing something and whatever. But that's an interesting premise, Steve. Um, Last thing, well, two last things. What does it mean to finally see your story in print after so many years? What is that emotion?
It's how shall I say, validation at long last. It's really, it's a lovely feeling, really.
Yeah, okay. Hey, we said it before. It's like giving birth. Hey, you gave birth.
Yeah.
It's a birthing.
And that too, that there's a sense of relief that the baby is finally
Here.
been birthed.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. The gestation is over.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Where can people find the book and find you, etc.?
You can find me on my website, which is steveschlam.com.
Okay.
You can find the book on Amazon. You can find it at Barnes and Noble, and you can find it, quote unquote, wherever good books are sold. Um,
Perfect.
and yeah, and you can also find information about me and the book on my publisher's website, which is www.eighthhousepublishing.com, with eighth being 8th, not to spell that word.
Okay. I'm writing it down. I don't know if you noticed, I've been taking notes. I'm probably the
Actually,
only interviewer in American history who takes notes during an interview. I never saw Johnny Carson do it, or Jimmy Kimmel, or Jimmy
but
Fallon.
Johnny Carson had a teleprompter, and I don't think you do.
No, I don't. Not a bad idea, actually, but I'm not investing in the teleprompter. It's fine. I'm doing just fine. So, uh, we've done this. And so I herewith formally invite you to come back. Hey, come back. By the way, there's a million things in addition to the harvesting of Haystacks Kane. We can talk about, journeys and experiences in Sedona. Hey, we could talk a whole hour on Sedona uh, and the stuff that's happened to me. I came back from Sedona once. I hit a royal flush playing poker, and I attribute that directly to
I had a I had a Native American experience in Boynton Canyon in Sedona, in
Wow.
which I had visions that, and I was a skeptic about things like this, and there's no way around it. I had them.
Yeah,
It's a
so did
very,
I.
so yeah, I'm sure you did.
So did I.
People do. It's a very special place.
Yeah, very special place. That's why I've ran there 12 times. Sometimes I bought a CD in Telapaki. They had
Right. Yeah.
they had all these Native American things. So I bought it was Incan Panpipes by Coyote Oldman, and I bought that and came home and I listened to it. And I couldn't, honestly, I couldn't explain the emotionality of listening to that because I could feel the sadness in the music, the pipes. I felt that Native American sadness. That's a dog in the background there. We're babysitting. But anyway, I felt it. And one time I was sitting here listening to native panpipes, and I was so overcome with emotion that my poor wife has to endure all this stuff. I said to her, "You're not going to understand this, but I'm flying to Sedona tomorrow. I have to be there." And she endures all this stuff. And I flew to Sedona the next day and spent the week out there. And I'll tell you a funny story, real fast, even though we're on air, but it's a great story. I couldn't explain how I felt about the Native American experience. And we went on the way to Sedona. You go to Montezuma's castle there, where those
Sure.
Sinagua Indians have their cave dwellers. They're gone. They disappeared like overnight. And
Actually, if you talk to Native American people, Puebloan people, they always laugh at that. They said, well, we didn't disappear, we just evolved, and that's exactly true. You
Oh,
know,
well, obviously so. Uh, but I could never, it just haunted me for years and years. And coming back from Sedona, I was smitten with deja vu. And it was all over me, my soul. And then a few years after all of that, I did 23andMe. I felt I wanted to know a little bit more because my parents were gone. And it came back. It came back between 1650 and 1770. I may have had a Native American ancestor.
no kidding. Wow,
And I
that's
thrived
pretty
on
good.
that. And I couldn't imagine how, with my relatives coming from Poland and Russia, how that could have happened. That's a story in
Well,
itself.
the most famous pueblo of all, there are seven or eight pueblos that ring Santa Fe. The most famous one, and that's been marketed really quite successfully. And it's a wonderful place. The setting is spectacular. It's on a mesa that overlooks a huge valley. And it's called Acoma Pueblo, and Acoma. And at one time back I believe in the 1800s, I'm pretty certain of it, there was a Jewish governor of Acoma Pueblo
Wow.
who had married, I gather, a native woman, a Puebloan woman, and he was very much involved in the life of the Pueblo, and eventually rose to the position of governor.
Wow.
Yeah,
Interesting stuff.
yeah.
Hey, all this, what we just said, is all a preamble to coming back. So,
I'd be happy to, and I
yeah,
thank you for having me today. I
my
appreciate it.
pleasure. I'm just going to stop recording. Don't leave. We're going to do a 2-minute wrap, but this was great, Steve. Thank you.
My pleasure once